All right, so look, let's get to it here today at 215-592-9494. I mean, just a spectacular weekend from the Phils, and obviously we'll take your reaction on what you saw, what stood out to you, what it all means. I mean, look, they just keep doing it here. It's actually getting kind of ridiculous. They win, it seems like, almost every way that a team can win. I mean, there's the comeback varieties, which, of course, there were a couple of them this weekend. There's the going away laughing varieties, like, yesterday was eventually a win it comfortably going away kind of game, but it was close for a while. Phils were down for a stretch. Obviously, I think the hallmark of this team, even more than the comebacks, has been the exceptional starting pitching, which has just been phenomenal. Aaron Nola with another quality start yesterday. I mean, they obviously get lots of hits. They get big hits. They play really big-time defense. I mean, there was a play, I think it was on Friday night, when Alec Boehm went to his left for a diving stab, grabbed it, flipped to second, flipped to first, double play. They just do. I mean, obviously the bullpen also. I mean, this is, and again, we want to hear from you at 215-592-9494. John, it's actually getting almost to the point of absurd. It really is.
It's so awesome, and I just want to I want to make sure that I enjoy this. I want to make sure that I remind myself baseball isn't always this easy.
No.
We walked as much as we struck out yesterday. That really stuck out to me, and that's something that Topper actually brought up after the game too. There were 6 walks, 6 strikeouts, but what that signifies is this is a group that not only is incredibly talented, but their approach at the plate is so much better this year. The walks to strikeouts ratio and how much better it's been this year, our manager talked about that. Just imagine what it would feel like if you had to play the Phillies, Joe. Like, imagine what that would – there's just not weakness. And now this team approach at the plate and to the season – are refined. Their approach at the plate, but also their approach to the season. I thought it was interesting that Alec Boehm yesterday, it was yesterday or over the weekend, one of the days, he was talking about beating the other team to 4 wins. Talking about how they're getting better at beating the other team to 4 wins. He's talking about the urgency required in a postseason series.
Yeah.
In a regular season at post game. There's more urgency to that, so that is accelerated.
I think the mindset was sharpened, John, and
yes.
I think Aaron Nola kind of spoke to that.
The players are talking about
Friday
winning differently.
Us. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone on this team knows how to win. They know how they fell short the last couple seasons, and they've been stewing over it, and you can feel that, and you can see it in the way that they're playing. And everything is accelerated. This team right now, this team is bigger and better than this stage of the season, and they're playing that way. This is a team that's like a postseason team, and you can see it in the way that this is unfolding. You look at, oh my gosh, 6 sweeps in the last 11 series, 7 sweeps we had all of last year. We've now had 6 sweeps already.
Yeah, it's great.
We've now been unbeaten in the last 14 series. So not only are we just sweeping people like left and right, but, I need to remind myself, as I'm reminding you, this is amazing baseball. Yeah. We need to enjoy this. Enjoy this awesomeness. What we're seeing, this Phillies team has the talent to get it done, but it's so critical. They've built that chemistry now, and now they've refined that approach to where they're playing baseball exactly the way, like, I wish I could play it. Like, they're going out there and they're never quitting. They've formed belief. This approach, this refined approach and the results that it nets, they've now formed belief within that clubhouse,
well, John,
belief within this city, and that's why this baseball is so amazing to watch.
So I'm struck by, hearing you talk, and I see your enthusiasm. Like, you played as a football player on 2 different organizations, both of which had great stretches. Your Eagles teams and your Raiders teams were great teams. Neither won the Super Bowl, but they were great football teams. You're winning 11, 12, every year.
Yes.
And this team has that kind of feel where you turn on the TV or you go to the ballpark and, you just expect the Phillies are probably going to win. No, they're not going to win every game, obviously. But I'll tell you what, this has been one of the great months they've ever had. I mean, this has been, and if you go back since, that first week and a half or whatever it was when it was funky, I mean, this has been one of the great 6-7 week stretches in Phillies history. I mean, it's and they now
it's been
do
one of the great National League Baseball team stretches we've seen in the last 50 years. They're they're one of 1, 2, 3. They're the fifth team to start 34 and 14 since 1976.
It's unbelievable.
In the National League. Think about that.
No, I hear you. And look, the 93 Phils, I mean, for years I've talked about how that team started up 45-17. And basically, I don't want to say totally had the division by Memorial Day, but it was sort of like a just about. I mean, Cardinals made a run in June of 93 or July 9, I think it was, and the Expos in October, but it was in September. But it was never like truly tight. And that stretch from the 93 Phils in April and May basically won the division. And it feels like, no, look, this year, obviously the Braves still lurk, although they struggled this weekend. And, without Strider, it's a different Braves team this year. It's just, there's a lot to say. And again, 215-592-9494 for what stood out to you from this weekend and what it means. I mean, I'll give you two things because there's a lot going through me that I saw, obviously. But two things in particular I'll tell you that stood out to me. The first, and this is not the first time I've said it, but I believe it more and more now, this Phillies team does not have a team weakness. They do not have a team weakness. Now, let me be very clear. Castellanos has been the worst player in the starting regular 8 or 9, whatever the hell you want to call it these days. Like, he obviously is still batting only a little bit above 200. Now, he did have some good moments this weekend, obviously. And while he's been, I mean, let's just be blunt, he's been weak. I wouldn't call it a team weakness. That's one of the things the 2017 Eagles, I remember during that season, we talked quite a bit that year, that it did not appear that the Eagles in that season had a team weakness. I would say the weakest element was probably their corners. When Darby came back, like he was very average. Jalen Mills was probably average. I thought Patrick Robinson was above average, but it wasn't like... they weren't, but here's the deal. There are teams that win the Super Bowl. Seattle's an example of this. They had a bad offensive line. They had a flat-out bad offensive line. There's teams that win the Super Bowl that have bad running games. There's teams that win the Super Bowl that have flat-out bad wide receivers. Like when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I was convinced they did not have a team weakness. Some players are going to be worse than others, but there was no weakness where you say, man, the other team is going to exploit that. That's how I feel about the Phils right now. Now, to the point John brought up earlier about strikeouts and walks and all that sort of stuff, do I feel like they're completely out of the woods of a free hacking type team to reemerge in October and, bounce them out in 4 or 5 days? No, because those things happen, and that's part of baseball. But as of right now, the way they're playing, with the excellence they're getting, the improvement of Rojas, I mean, the bench contributions, which, by the way, were a hallmark of 80 when they won championship. Obviously, you see a guy like Cody Clemens this weekend. I mean, I just feel they are extremely complete as a baseball team. The other thing I'll say, and of course you can react to all this at 215-592-9494. The other thing I'll say that really stood out to me, because we can talk about Wheeler and Nolan and all that, ad nauseum, and we've been doing it for weeks and weeks and we'll continue. But guys, look at the ballpark this weekend. It was really crowded. I mean, the bottom line is this town, obviously, our town has bought into this team. And it's been an evolution for a couple of seasons. It was 2022 making the playoffs. It was 2022 winning in St. Louis in that first round, then beating the Braves, obviously then beating the Padres and Bryce's homer, the whole deal. Last year, a similar regular season journey, but another very fun 2.5, 3 weeks, obviously before the crash and burn. Look, there's great intensity and focus, obviously, from the players. There's great intensity and focus from the fans. And you get a quality weather weekend like we just had. You're getting close to the summer. You got a first-place baseball team, and that's when you start seeing sellouts. And I'll tell you guys, like that could be a hallmark for the next 3 months. That could be a hallmark for the next 3 years. I mean, what stood out to me, the crowds are there. It's awesome. It really is. Look, 215-592-9494 for you to weigh in on what stood out to you this weekend, what it all means. I mean, what it all means to me is the Phillies are now likely to win the division. It's not over, far from it, but they are likely to win the division. It also means this is a different type of year. It just is. I mean, what we experienced in 22 and 23, like that formula is out the window.
Yeah.
I mean, that formula was get to June 1st, consider whether you got to fire the manager or not. 1 year they did, 1 year they didn't. And then do a scramble drill in June and July to try to crawl back into it. And then in August to September, actually try to find your way into it to make the play. This is different, man. Look, your thoughts on everything we saw this weekend.
This team's getting after it.
They
with
are.
A vengeance.
They are.
And it's going to be a great summer. It's going to
I
be
agree with that.
An awesome summer for baseball. Fall will come.
Yeah.
I'm going to focus
on what's here, right?
Enjoying this domination.
I agree, John.
Yeah.
I totally agree. All right, 215-592-9494. Cool prize on the line today. We'll get to that next. Your phone calls all show. What stood out to you from this weekend? Plus the other sports. We'll get into that as well on 94 WIP.